So I want to thank Tom for organizing the stewardship campaign this year, and he asked me to say a few words about how the Social Action Committee is opening our church's doors to try to make a difference in our community, in our church, and in the congregation. First of all, just a little bit of perspective. I'm an economist and we love numbers. Numbers can tell you so much. So we know that poverty in all its dimensions is present in our community. One area is affordable housing. In October, this October, there was a homelessness survey done in Ottawa, and they counted 1,400 people living on the streets. Now in Ottawa, 2.5% of our population are First Nations people, but they made up 25% of the people on the streets. And of those 350 people, 50% had been in foster care as children. 25% of the homeless are refugees and recent immigrants. 10% of those people are veterans, and 10% are from the LGBT community, although those probably cut across the other groups. Child poverty. 1.2 million children in Canada live in poverty, and that's about 17% of all children. Now, in our neighborhood in Ottawa South, there are 353 ridings in Canada, and Ottawa South is in the top 30 poor ridings, and they're 29th. And about 29% of children in our neighborhood live in poverty. In Vanier, which includes Rockcliffe, Lindenlea, and New Edinburgh, they're 18th of the most poor regions or ridings in Canada, and about 30% of all children in that area, and that includes Rockcliffe and New Edinburgh and Manor Park, so we know that in Vanier itself it's pretty desperate. So anecdotally, what does this mean? For example, in the Vanier area at Manor Park Public School, there's 800 children in that school, 260, probably about 40% go to school hungry and are fed breakfast. Recently, I was in Russell Heights Community House and also in the Blair Court Community House, and I was talking to the directors. And Sarah Dwyer, who a lot of us know very well, she was telling me about this little boy who lives in Russell Heights, who's 4 years old and isn't properly toilet trained, and his language skills are really low. And she's been trying to get the mother of this child to put him in the preschool program, but the mother has 4 children, and she just can't get out the door. And so finally, Sarah tracked down the mother and said, "I'm coming every day, and I'm taking your child to the preschool." And that's what she did. And this child is getting better care in the preschool program at Russell Heights. I talked to Christy Fudakowski at the Blair Court, and she's telling me one of our big problems is shoes for the children, because a lot of kids wear odd shoes, the shoes aren't working, they don't have boots, and it is really very difficult for these families to really make their children feel comfortable, especially in the Ottawa winter. So that's a little bit of background. Tom asked me to talk about the Social Action Committee and sort of what has inspired me being here at Emmanuel. And I have to say that the very first meeting I went to, one person whose name I will not mention, but somebody else was saying that we should do something in terms of a workshop or something, and this other person said, "I would like to remind all of you that this is the Social Action Committee. We don't talk, we have to do things." And I thought, she's channeling my mother-in-law, Catherine English, or maybe Margaret, who's just down the hall. But however, I think that is what really does inspire me in Emmanuel in large, and also in the Social Action Committee. Pierre and Janice Perron, they're really very committed to working on the housing issue. They're building houses with Habitat for Humanity and are working constantly in Orleans building affordable housing, and on the multi-faith housing initiative. If you want to talk about the multi-faith housing initiative and what Emmanuel has done there, you can talk to Phyllis, who's on the board. They deliver food from our food drives to the food banks in Russell Heights and in the Rita Rockcliffe Resource Center, which is where Vanier is situated. Nanette is on the board of the Hair and Emergency Cupboard and has been there for 15 years. It's an amazing organization. It's very responsive to our community in terms of improving food security, and Emmanuel started that emergency food pantry. And Frederick King is the chair of the board in Rideau Rockcliffe Resource Center, serving the poorest neighborhood, as I mentioned, in Ottawa. Recently, we gave $500 of food cards to help the families in Ottawa stranded by the tornadoes, and we're contributing to a new freezer for the Heron Emergency Food Pantry. Harold Headley does volunteer work at the Ottawa Southeast Health Centre, where I was recently, and learned that there was over 200 volunteers that work there, and people from Emmanuel as well. There's so much other things going on in this church that it does inspire me greatly. So Tom asked, what can we do to open our doors? What can we reflect on? How can we open the doors of our church to our community? And I'd like to say that we are looking for a new person to be on the board of the Heron Emergency Food Cupboard. And Nanette has done this for 15 years, as I already mentioned, and she would like to do something else. And also, we really believe in this organization. In the next 2 years, there's going to be a big drive to raise funds for a multi-faith house initiative to build homes for homeless veterans and others on the old CFB Rockcliffe. And you can talk to Phyllis about that. We can donate more to our food drives each month. Food and baby products such as diapers are really, really needed. And we can think of December as a diaper drive. We can find ways to open doors to the First Nations communities that are living so close to us. The first step that in the church, we're going to have a big concert with the Twin Flames band to raise money for the Ottawa Friendship Centre. That's in February. So everybody could try to sell tickets to their friends, to their family. It's going to be a really big event. And I think it's going to be such a wonderful opportunity for us to experience First Nations music and culture here. So thank you very much.